I'm not signing this, I said, sliding the pen back across the conference table toward Jenna. Her mascara was already halfway down her cheeks. Her mom was clutching a box of tissues, and my lawyer was quietly stacking documents like he'd done this 1,000 times. Either you agree in writing to split every wedding cost you pushed for, or I file and let a judge look at the video of you riding the stripper in the VIP room while wearing your veil. Her dad opened his mouth to speak, but I cut him off. You wanted me to be mature about your mistake, I said, tapping the manila folder with the USB drive. This is me being mature. Now, are you going to sign, or do we let this get a lot uglier? I'm 32, a project manager for a commercial construction company. Pretty boring on paper in the way parents like. Own a small but solid 3-bedroom place on the edge of town, paid off my truck, emergency fund in place, no kids, no crazy debt. I did everything the right way. My dad used to say, build your foundation first, then the rest is just design work, and I took that to heart. Jenna and I met 4 years ago at a friend's New Year's Eve party, the kind where half the people are in sequins and the other half are in hoodies, and no one knows which group they belong in. She was in the sequin category, champagne in one hand, glitter in her hair, and somehow still the most grounded person in the room. She worked in corporate events, which meant she lived on color-coded calendars and vendor contracts, and at first it felt like we were a perfect balance. I built the big stuff. She filled it with people and memories. The first couple of years were easy. Weekend trips, late-night tacos, her coming over after long events and crashing on my couch with her shoes on. My best friend Liam, a plumber I'd known since middle school, was over for Sunday football the first time he really saw us together. Later, as we were cleaning up, he said, "She's fun, man, but she's got that life is a movie vibe. Just keep your eyes open, yeah?" I laughed it off. Everyone has quirks. I'd read stories online about guys walking away at the first big red flag and always thought, I'm not that dramatic. One of them was a dude whose fiancée literally told him in therapy she'd settled for him, and he just stood up, said he was relieved, and walked out. I remember thinking he was cold. Turns out he was just ahead of the curve. The first red flags were small and easy to ignore. When Jenna talked about our future, she talked about the wedding, not the marriage. What kind of venue, how the photos would look, what hashtags we'd use. When I tried to talk about budgets, she'd say, "It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing, we'll figure it out," and then send me spreadsheets of florists that charged more than my truck payment. She was weirdly obsessed with one last wild night stuff, too. Every time a friend got engaged, she'd push for crazy bachelorette plans. Vegas, male reviews, no cameras allowed, ladies' jokes. I told her early, I'm not cool with cheating being treated like a rite of passage. And she'd roll her eyes and say, "Relax, you're so old man about this, nobody's actually doing anything serious." When Liam heard her say that one night, he shot me a look over his beer like, "You buying that?" Then the actual wedding planning started, and the money conversations got real. I was covering the bulk of the costs, venue deposit, photographer, catering, because I could, and Jenna's logic was, you make more, babe, that's how partnerships work. She'd throw in her smaller stuff, hair, makeup, decorations. We opened a joint wedding account for shared expenses, but kept our personal accounts separate. I insisted on a prenup too. Not because I didn't trust her, but because I owned the house and had zero intention of letting anyone walk away with half of something I'd built long before they showed up. The prenup had a simple clause. If either of us cheated before or during the marriage, no spousal support, no claim on the house, engagement ring stays with the faithful party. She'd called it unromantic, but signed it after her own lawyer told her it was standard and fair. 3 months before the wedding, Jenna's maid of honor, Kelsey, started planning the Bachelorette weekend. "Miami, baby," Jenna said, practically vibrating at my kitchen island as she scrolled through beach bars on Instagram. "Just 4 days. We'll do a boat, a fancy dinner, a little clubbing. You should do Vegas with the guys, balance the chaos." I told her I wasn't interested in waking up hungover in another state. The guys and I were doing a cabin, fishing, stupid board games, actual relaxing. "You're so annoyingly wholesome," she laughed, kissing me. I said, "Okay, but I want to be clear about boundaries. No sketchy stuff. No strippers, no private rooms. I'm not trying to police you. I just don't want to marry into a story I'm the punchline of." She groaned dramatically. "Fine, Dad. We'll just sit in a circle and knit." Liam was there when I said it, and once Jenna left, he said, "You know she's testing the fence, right? You put a line down. Either she respects it, or you learn something. Don't move it afterward." The weekend of the Bachelorette Her group text with the bridesmaids went from constant pinging to dead silent after the first night. That alone put my stomach in knots. Her location sharing, which had always been on by default, suddenly turned off. When I texted, "How's it going?" she replied hours later with, "Amazing, so busy, barely on my phone, love you," and a grainy pic of a beach that looked like it was lifted off Google. I tried not to obsess. The guys and I were at the cabin playing cards, drinking cheap beer, roasting each other. But every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was her and felt that little drop when it wasn't. On the second night, around midnight, Liam's phone lit up. He checked it, frowned, then looked at me. "Don't freak out," he said, which is exactly what you say when someone is about to freak out. He turned the screen toward me. It was a DM from his girlfriend, Tessa, who worked with one of Jenna's bridesmaids. It was a shaky vertical video in a nightclub, lights strobing, bass thumping. Front and center, Jenna in her white bride sash and veil in a roped-off area, straddling a dude in nothing but tight black briefs and a bow tie. His hands were full of her ass, her head thrown back, her dress hiked up far enough that I could see the top of her thong. The caption, "Your boy better not be this wild at his bachelor party, LOL." My first reaction was denial. Bad angle, optical illusion, some kind of prank. Then the dude turned his head, and you could see clearly what was happening. There was no, "Oh, we just danced a little" explanation for the way she was grinding on him. I watched it 3 times, my chest tight, fingers numb. Liam put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry, man." Tessa sent more. Screenshots of the bridesmaids group chat they'd been in earlier. Messages like, "Jenna, you're insane, and this is exactly what he said not to do. And please tell me you're gonna shower before you climb into his bed again." One said, "Okay, but this is our last free night, don't be lame," with a winky face. Jenna herself had sent, "It's fine, I'm getting married, not dead. Owen doesn't need to know every detail," followed by a devil emoji and a video thumbnail with her sitting in the stripper's lap in what looked like a back room, softer lighting, a champagne bottle on the table. My brain started connecting dots. The no phones jokes. The turned off location. The fact that she'd been extra sweet the week before, cooking my favorite meals, initiating sex more than usual. Guilt makeover. I didn't say anything to the guys that night except that I wasn't feeling well and wanted to head back early. I lay on the bunk in the dark staring at the ceiling while everyone else laughed in the living room, feeling like my life had just split into before Jenna in Miami and after Jenna in Miami. The next morning, I got the confirmation I couldn't talk myself around. A 7 a.m. text from an unknown number. "You don't know me, but I think you should see this. I'd want to know." Attached was a clearer video, obviously taken from across the room by someone with better timing. It showed Jenna leading the stripper by the hand into a side hallway marked private, kissing him full on the mouth before they disappeared through the door. 30 minutes later, same hallway, same door, her coming out first, hair messed up, veil crooked, adjusting her dress. The stripper followed, buttoning his shirt. If I'd just had the lap dance footage, maybe, I could have eventually moved the line for her. But that second video? That wasn't got carried away. That was a conscious decision. Cheat on my fiancé in a back room, then walk back out with the veil still on. I stared at the phone until my vision blurred, then forwarded everything to my own email and to a private folder I'd set up for house documents. Habit. Then I texted Jenna. "Morning. You alive?" She replied an hour later. "Barely LOL. We went hard. Don't be mad, it was tame. Heading to brunch." That word, tame, made something in me go cold. I didn't answer. Instead, I started making a list because that's what my brain does when it's in shock. It organizes. 1. Save every piece of evidence. 2. Talk to Liam's cousin, who is a cop, about what, if anything, I needed to do if she tried to flip the story. 3. Call my lawyer, the same one who drafted the prenup, and ask what the engagement ring situation looked like if she decided to leave. I felt strangely calm, almost detached. The same way I'd felt looking at structural damage on a site once. Something had cracked, and no amount of patching was going to make it safe to build on. Jenna came back from Miami on Sunday night, rolling her suitcase up my driveway, all smiles and fake exhaustion. "Babe," she sang as she came through the door. "I missed you, you boring stable man." She dropped the suitcase, wrapped herself around me, and went in for a kiss. I turned my head so it landed on my cheek instead. She froze for a second, then laughed awkwardly. Wow, okay. Someone's salty I got more sun than him. How was the trip? I asked. My voice sounded weird even to me. Too calm. So good, she said, launching into a story about the boat day, the fancy dinner, how Kelsey got too drunk and cried about turning 30. She did not mention clubs, VIP rooms, or private hallways. When she was done, she said, "See? Totally tame. Are you satisfied, parole officer?" I pulled my phone out, opened the video of her in the VIP lap dance, and hit play. I set it on the counter between us without saying anything. She watched for maybe 5 seconds before her hand flew to her mouth. "Where did you get that?" she asked, voice suddenly small. I swiped to the second video, the hallway one. Let it play all the way through. She didn't say a word, just stared at the screen like it might start telling a different story if she waited long enough. When it ended, I locked the phone and looked at her. "You want to try that tame line again?" The first thing out of her mouth wasn't, "I'm sorry," or "I fucked up," or anything close. It was, "Why are people filming this? That's such a violation." I actually laughed. I couldn't help it. "That's your concern?" I asked. "Not the part where you cheated on me 2 weeks before our wedding?" "It was a mistake," she said quickly, coming around the island toward me. "I was drunk. The girls were hyping me up. It just happened." "You don't accidentally walk into a back room with a naked dude and come out 30 minutes later adjusting your dress," I said. "You made a choice." She started crying then, mascara already smearing. "It didn't mean anything," she sobbed. "You know I love you. It was just one stupid night. Can't you please be mature about this?" I repeated the phrase back to her slowly. "Be mature." "Yes," she said, grabbing my hands. "We have deposits down. Our families are involved. People have plane tickets. We've been together 4 years. You're really going to throw all that away over one mistake? Do you know how childish that sounds?" The wild thing is, part of me had expected her to say that exact line. I remembered that story I'd read about the guy whose fiancée admitted she'd settled for him, and he walked out of therapy saying he was relieved. I judged him then. Now I got it. "You're right," I said, surprising her. "We should be mature. Being mature is looking at the foundation and admitting when it's cracked beyond repair. Being mature is not dragging each other through a marriage built on, well, it was only one night in a strip club back room. We can fix this," she insisted. "We can go to counseling, talk about boundaries, make rules. People come back from way worse than this." "Some people do," I said. "I'm not one of them." I took the ring off her finger and set it on the counter. She stared at it like it might bite her. "We're done, Jenna. Wedding's off." Her mouth fell open. "You can't just cancel a wedding like that," she said. "Watch me," I replied. The next 48 hours were brutal, but efficient. I called my lawyer first. He confirmed what I already knew but wanted to hear in professional language. Engagement rings are considered conditional gifts in our state. Condition being that the wedding actually happens. If she's the one whose actions cause it to be called off, I keep the ring. I forwarded him the videos and the screenshots. "If she tries to claim you left for no reason, you'll be fine," he said. Then he suggested something I hadn't thought of. Jenna had signed several of the vendor contracts herself, personally guaranteeing payment on upgrades she insisted on that went beyond our initial budget. We'd kept things separate enough that there was a clear money trail. My card for venue and catering, her card for the over-the-top stuff like live flower walls and a champagne tower. "You can cancel your contracts and eat the loss," he said. "Or you can cancel and negotiate, especially if they can rebook the date. As for hers, you don't touch them. Let the companies chase her." Financially, it ended up feeling a lot like that story I'd seen about a guy whose parents drained his college fund and then got hammered when his grandpa and a lawyer stepped in. Different situation, same math. People played stupid games with money that wasn't really theirs and wound up paying the price. I spent a full day on the phone with vendors. The venue was surprisingly kind. They'd had another couple on the wait list for our date, and since it was still 2 weeks out, they refunded 80% of my deposit and transferred the date. The photographer kept our retainer but released me from the rest. The caterer, who liked me because I'd actually read the contract before signing, offered a partial refund if I canceled that week so they could order less. The only ones who didn't budge were the DJ and the decorator Jenna had chosen, and both of those contracts were in her name. I forwarded their emails to her with one line, "Per your signature." I listed the house back under my name alone with the county. She'd never made it onto the deed, but I double-checked that nothing had changed in the chaos of wedding planning. I moved her stuff, what she'd already brought over, into boxes and left them in the guest room. Then I sent one group text to our immediate families. Wedding is canceled. I will not be discussing details right now. Please cancel any travel arrangements you can. I'm sorry for the inconvenience. Within minutes, my phone blew up. Her mom called me, demanding to know what Jenna had done this time, which told me more about their family dynamics than I'd learned in 4 years. My mom texted, "Are you okay?" And a minute later, "I'm proud of you for drawing whatever line you drew. We've got your back." Her dad asked if we could meet. I agreed, on my terms, with my lawyer present. That was the meeting in the opening scene. By the time we sat in that conference room, Jenna had gone full PR mode. She'd told her friends I'd freaked out over nothing, that I was controlling and trauma-dumped, hyper-monogamous, because I wouldn't accept that grown-up relationships survive mistakes. She put up a vague Instagram story about finding out who really loves you when you're not perfect, which her friends flooded with heart emojis. What she didn't count on was how many people at that club had cameras, and how many of her own friends were tired of her bullshit. Kelsey, her maid of honor, cracked first. She called me, voice shaking. "I can't do this," she said. "She keeps making me tell it was just a dance story, and it's a lie. I saw everything. I tried to stop her. I told her you'd leave if you found out, and she said, he's not going to dump his whole life over one night." I'm sorry, Owen. Another bridesmaid's boyfriend texted me the original hallway video, along with, "I don't even know you, man, but if someone did that to my sister, I'd want to know." My lawyer put everything in a neat little folder with tabs. When Jenna's dad saw it in the conference room and watched the videos for himself, his face went gray. "Jesus Christ, Jenna," he said, sinking back in his chair. "You did this?" Jenna burst into tears. "It's not what it looks like," she sobbed, clinging to the phrase like a life raft. I leaned back and folded my arms. "Then explain what it looks like," I said. "Explain how the guy whose lap you're in here is the same guy you're kissing in this hallway, and how the door you both go through is labeled private." "I'll wait." She couldn't, so she pivoted. "I was drunk," she said. "The girls pressured me. The stripper was pushy. It's literally his job. I said I didn't want to do anything, and then it just happened. I don't remember most of it." My lawyer, calm as ever, said, "If you feel you were assaulted, we should stop this conversation right now and go to the police. But I need to be clear. If you're making a false accusation to avoid financial responsibility, that has its own legal consequences." Jenna stared at him, then at her parents, then at me. "I'm not saying it was assault," she muttered. "It was just a mistake." "Then we're back where we started," I said. "You cheated. I found out. I called off the wedding. Now we're talking about money." The agreement on the table was simple. I wasn't asking her to reimburse my non-refundable costs. I could afford those, and frankly, it was cheaper than a divorce would have been. All I wanted was her to formally accept responsibility for the debts in her name so I wouldn't have some decorator or DJ coming after me later, claiming we'd jointly agreed. My lawyer had also added one more clause. She'd return any gifts sent to us so far, or turn them over to me to return, and she'd not slander me to vendors or employers, as we had documented evidence of her misconduct. Her dad read through it, lips pressed flat. "This is fair," he said finally. "You did this, Jenna. You're lucky he's not asking for anything more." "You're really going to take his side?" she snapped. "I'm your daughter." "I'm taking the side that doesn't involve rewarding you for cheating," he replied. "Sign the damn papers." She signed, hand, shaking so hard the signature looked like a child's. As we were leaving the building, she caught up to me in the hallway. "Do you really have to keep the ring?" she asked. "It's the only nice thing I own right now. Everything else is maxed out or tied up in this disaster." "That's kind of the point," I said. "Actions, consequences." I did, for a second, feel a flicker of pity. Then I remembered her laughing in that first video, veil crooked, hands in another guy's hair. The pity went away. I sold the ring a week later. I didn't get what I'd paid for it, nobody ever does, but it covered my remaining wedding costs plus therapy for a few months, which turned out to be the best investment I made in the whole mess. In the weeks after everything blew up, Jenna tried to control the story like I knew she would. She told some people I had rage issues and abandonment problems, that my demand for perfection was unhealthy. She hinted that the video was edited and that context was missing. Normally, I would have stayed completely silent. This time, I didn't have to say much. Tessa posted in a private group chat that someone screenshotted, and of course it made the rounds. Girl, you can't say it was just a silly dance when half of us watched you disappear into that back room for half an hour. Own what you did. A coworker of Jenna's apparently saw the video, and because corporate events and HR are basically cousins, flagged it to their boss when Jenna called in sick 3 days in a row. Her company had a social media clause in their contracts about conduct at branded events and anything that reflected on the company. The club footage wasn't technically at a company event, but enough colleagues had seen it that she got pulled into a meeting. She didn't get fired, but she did get pulled off 2 high-profile conferences and stuck on boring internal trainings for a while. She texted me about that. Are you happy? You ruined my career. I didn't answer. Her own behavior did that. The twist I didn't see coming was her mom. She called me about a month after the wedding was supposed to happen. I just wanted to say I'm sorry, she said. For how she treated you. For how we pushed the big wedding when you wanted something smaller. We should have listened when you raised concerns. We were blinded by the show. I told her I appreciated it. She asked if I'd ever consider talking to Jenna again. Just for closure? I told her I already had closure. It was dated the day of that lawyer's meeting, stapled and filed. 3 months later, Jenna tried one more time. She showed up at the coffee shop near my office where she knew I went on Fridays, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. No lashes, no contouring, just a messy bun and dark circles. Can I sit? She asked, hovering by the table. Against my better judgment, I nodded. She sat and wrapped her hands around her cup like she was freezing. I've been in therapy, she said, like it was proof of a changed soul. I'm realizing I self-sabotage when things are good. I chase chaos because stability scares me. I know that's not an excuse, but I understand it now. Good, I said, and I meant it. That'll help you next time. I miss you, she said, eyes filling. You were the only adult in my life. I thought I wanted the wild story, the crazy memories, but I just blew up the one thing that was actually solid. Is there any part of you that could ever try again? I thought about it. Really did. I thought about our early days, about her falling asleep on my shoulder during movies, about the way she used to bring me coffee on site when I was stuck at a project for 12 hours. Then I thought about her dismissing my boundaries, about her asking me to be mature about her cheating. I thought about how I'd felt in that cabin bunk, holding my phone with numb fingers, realizing in real time that my entire life was about to change because someone else wanted a story to tell at brunch. No, I said softly. There isn't. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Not ever. Not ever, I repeated. You're not asking for forgiveness. You're asking for a reset button that doesn't exist. I forgive you in the sense that I don't wish you harm, and I'm not walking around stewing in anger. But I'm not going to put my life back in the hands of someone who already showed me what they do with it. She wiped her eyes. I guess I deserve that, she said, standing up. I hope you find someone who never gives you a reason to doubt them. Me too, I said. And I meant that for both of us. Healing wasn't some montage of gym sessions and new dates. It was dull at times. Going to work, going to therapy, saying no to rebound situations that smelled like more chaos. It was sitting with Liam on his back porch, talking about absolutely nothing, and realizing halfway through the conversation that I hadn't thought about the videos all day. It was my mom dropping off lasagna and not bringing up Jenna's name once. It was picking up extra projects at work because I wanted to, not because I was hiding. Slowly, the wedding stuff turned from a fresh wound into just a thing that had happened. An ugly chapter, but not the whole book. I started rock climbing with some coworkers, took a couple of weekend trips alone just because I could, redid the room that was supposed to be ours into a ridiculous home office with a stupidly big desk. Somewhere along the way, I realized the house felt lighter. Not because there was less furniture, but because I wasn't walking around it waiting for the other shoe to drop anymore. Do I still believe in marriage? Honestly, yeah. I'm not anti-commitment now. I'm just a lot more careful about who I build with. I know what my lines are, and I know I won't move them to keep someone from calling me immature. If anything, this whole mess proved the opposite. Sometimes the most grown-up thing you can do is walk away from something you really wanted because the foundation is cracked, and you know it'll collapse if you keep pretending it's fine. I lost a fiancé and a wedding, sure. But I kept my house, my bank account, my sanity, and my ability to look at myself in the mirror. And as much as it still stings sometimes, sitting in that lawyer's office while Jenna cried over DJ deposits, I knew I'd made the right call. I'd rather be alone in a life I built on solid ground than standing at an altar with someone who already spent our last night of freedom, proving what my place in her story really was.